It is day 2 of the Sean Diddy Combs federal trial. Combs' ex-girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, she is one of Combs' many accusers, testifying as a central witness. Is she ready?
Are you ready?
Among other things, the singer is expected to address the 2016 video of Combs attacking her in a hotel when she was his girlfriend.
They called him a music mogul, a kingmaker, the ultimate success story in hip-hop. But yesterday, all of that came crashing down when Cassie Ventura took the stand. That carefully polished image shattered in seconds. Diddy's face went pale as his ex dropped bombshell after bombshell, so disturbing even the courtroom pros were stunned. The man who once ran the game couldn't even keep his cool. Cassie revealed it all, and we mean everything about what allegedly went down behind those closed doors.
There, Rachel, she had on a brown dress, form-fitting, visibly pregnant, head held high, and did not make any eye contact with the defendant, with Sean Combs. He said that Sean Combs directed everything from what she had on, to the lighting in the room, to how she was supposed to interact with the person that she was having sex with. And again, just to reiterate what is a freak-off, the freak-off essentially was something that Cassie said she learned about through Sean Combs about a year into their relationship. He described it as voyeurism, wanting to watch her have sex with someone else. And she said that she did it because she was 22, 21, she was young, she didn't know any better, and that she wanted to please Sean Combs.
Among other things, the singer is expected to address the 2016 video of Combs attacking her in a hotel when she was his girlfriend. Combs has pleaded not guilty. His attorneys argue the video is evidence of jealousy, not sex trafficking. And now for the first time, jurors are hearing what Cassie has to say about that and other aspects of their 10-year relationship.
For years, Sean Diddy Combs walked through the music world like he ran the whole show, because honestly, he kind of did. He built bad boy records from the ground up, turned unknowns into icons, and stretched his brand far beyond music into fashion, vodka, and media on the surface. Diddy was the blueprint for success, the guy who proved hip-hop could bring in real business money. But that picture-perfect image, that polished persona of a business genius and mentor, it might have been covering up something way darker. If what's being said in court is true, then while the world was clapping for his red carpet looks and magazine covers, Cassie Ventura was living a whole different life behind closed doors.
Describe the details of the freak-off and why she did it. When she talked about wanting to do it to please Sean Combs, that's when she broke down. Up until that point, she had just been answering the questions. She's a little soft-spoken at times, but that's when she got emotional. When she had to answer the question about if she enjoyed it, that's when she broke down, because she said, I enjoyed being with Sean Combs. And she says,
The courtroom yesterday got hit with a hard dose of contrast, and it left everyone in shock. This is a man who's always played the role of the ultimate pro: custom suits, clean-cut style, smooth talk in every interview. But the claims being made now, they paint a whole different picture, one that fans wouldn't even recognize behind the designer fits and polished image. The person Cassie described was a total shock. Court reporters watched him roll in on day 2 looking exactly like the Diddy we all know, like he owned the room surrounded by a wall of pricey lawyers. He strolled in, nodding, flashing small smiles like it was just another business meeting. But this wasn't business, it was serious, personal, and messy. That cool boss-like energy, it vanished fast. Witnesses said his whole vibe shifted quick. Just 30 minutes into Cassie's testimony, the confidence melted. That smooth, unbothered look started cracking.
In addition to the physical abuse that she potentially experienced.
Yeah, she's definitely laying out someone who was young, who was influenced by wanting to have this record career. She signed a 10-album deal with Bad Boy Entertainment, led by Sean Combs, and basically describes being enamored by Sean Combs, loving him, not knowing about certain things sexually, and him sort of telling her, teaching her about that. And what you hear is someone that was young and she even said, you know, I was young, I was naive, I didn't know any better. But she's really telling the story of someone who thought she was going to be with someone in this music industry that was going to help her career, that cared about her, but quickly learned after the freak-offs that wasn't the case. And what I thought was also interesting is she said that after that first freak-off, she said she felt dirty. She didn't want to do it. And when she brought up the idea of having a conversation about the freak-offs in an email, which the jurors saw, she said she backpedaled in the email because Combs responded by saying, I know, you don't want to do it. And she said, oh no, well, it's not that. But that was the beginning. That was in 2010, where she brings up in an email that she wanted to have a conversation about this. And in her words, she didn't want to do it, but she felt like she had to.
As she laid out specific moments from their past, Diddy's legal team kept jumping up with objections over and over, like they were scrambling to block every word coming out of her mouth. Picture this: the man who built a billion-dollar empire ran the careers of A-list artists and sealed massive deals left and right, now squirming in a courtroom, totally unable to hide how shaken he was. Witnesses said Diddy couldn't even sit still, while Cassie spoke. The power shift was unreal. As soon as Cassie took the stand, all eyes locked on Diddy.
Looking forward to these said freak-offs.
When the prosecution asked her, was there ever a time that you enjoyed the freak-offs? This is when Cassie got choked up, and she said, I did, but only because I got to spend one-on-one time with Combs, and I really did love him.
And that is speaking to the psychological abuse.
His face, it went ghost white, like the life had drained right out of him. He started messing with his tie, then his cuff links, then just nervously rubbing his hands. People watched as he scribbled frantic notes and shoved them toward his lawyers, like he was trying to take back control. Fast, it got so out of hand, one of his attorneys had to throw a hand up, signaling him to slow down. A court reporter said it felt like watching someone realize for the first time ever that the story was no longer theirs to control. Someone else even said Diddy looked physically sick, while Cassie laid out the past with calm, chilling detail. As Cassie's testimony rolled on into the afternoon, the courtroom braced for impact, because what came next explained exactly why Diddy was losing it. The next claim she dropped shook the entire room, and it's the kind of accusation that could send shock waves through the whole music industry. The empire he spent decades building at serious risk. The man who always controlled the narrative was now facing a version he couldn't direct or spin.
Prosecutors have wasted no time getting right into the alleged abuse that Cassie Ventura says she endured for years. Ventura telling jurors, quote, he would bash my head, knock me over, drag me, kick me, stomp me in the head when I was down. She also got into the nature of those so-called freak-offs, saying that they involved hiring an escort, and they performed under the direction of Combs, saying that they happened so frequently it eventually became a job for her to set them up. Ventura said she did not feel she had much of a choice but to participate, that she feared that Combs would retaliate or potentially blackmail her if she did not. And she's had at times to take, she's taken deep breaths, pausing her testimony. Combs appearing to be listening pretty passively with his hands in his lap.
When Cassie Ventura took the stand, the whole room went dead silent. You could hear a pin drop. Everyone knew this moment was coming, but nothing could have prepared them for what she was about to lay down. Not even Diddy's high-powered legal squad saw it coming like this. After years of silence, years of keeping it all locked inside, Cassie finally had the mic, and she used it. She didn't come in screaming. She started slow. That's what made it hit even harder. She talked about meeting Diddy when she was just 19. He was already a heavy hitter in the music game, stacked with millions and connections at every level. She was a young model chasing dreams of a music career from day one. The power gap was massive.
What the defense is going to say is that this wasn't blackmail, this was not coercion, this was consensual. We know that Cassie started out with Sean Combs as an early person, with someone who is trying to get her career started, and he was going to help her. That's what the defense is going to say, that she was starting out and wanted someone to support her. They did their first record deal together. That's something I think the defense is going to focus on, and had it not been for Sean Combs, she wouldn't be where she is right now. The prosecution obviously is saying he was in control. It may have started out as a consensual, it may have started out with her being excited about seeing him, but ultimately he took control of that relationship. He took control of her career. This is their key witness, and she's on that stand trying to explain all of the charges that the prosecution wants to hit home with that.
And according to Cassie, Diddy knew exactly how to flip that to his advantage. Her testimony built up like a thriller, each detail creeping in slow, starting with the small stuff, controlling behavior that only got worse. Cassie laid it all out: how he allegedly had to know where she was every second, how he'd pop up unannounced if she was out with friends, like he was tracking her moves. Then came the career control. She said he threatened to bury her music if she didn't play by his rules, and if she worked with other artists he didn't like, he'd allegedly sabotage the whole thing if he felt even a little threatened.
relationship with Diddy. Some of those details we've seen in prior lawsuits, but to hear her on the stand actually giving those details, reliving those moments herself. Also, you have to remember, she's very pregnant right now. So I'm gonna be curious to see how long she makes it on the stand, how she's emotionally able to weather all of these questions. And what's gonna be interesting to watch is, the defense from the very start in their opening statement said that she chose to be there. So I'm going to be curious to see how she responds to questions.
But the real shocker, according to court transcripts, Cassie claimed Diddy went as far as installing tracking software on her phone. She said he'd call her within minutes of her arriving somewhere, because he already knew where she was then won by. Once she said he cut off her friends, the ones who might have helped her leave. Slowly her circle shrank until Diddy was the only person left. It got so intense the judge had to call for order 3 times. Diddy couldn't keep it together, shaking his head, whispering at his lawyers, pulling faces the jury couldn't miss. Every time the judge checked him, Diddy would pull it together for like 5 minutes before losing it again. It was like watching a man who'd never been challenged suddenly realize he wasn't in control anymore. But then came the bombshell that flipped the whole courtroom upside down. Cassie calmly pulled out her phone and passed it to her attorney. What happened next? Game changer,
In Dallas, Austin, who she called a friend who's a producer. So I don't know if that's someone that we're going to hear from. We know that there were pictures shown to prospective jurors that are well-known celebrities, Kanye West, Kid Cudi, Lauren London. We don't know, though, how they fit yet into why they were even asked, do you know these people? Are you familiar with them?
So the prosecution is questioning Cassie right now, still questioning her.
The defense hasn't even got a chance to, that might change based on the timing, but, because she's such a key witness, it's likely that she will be on that stand the rest of the day. We learned that Cassie referred to him as Pop Pop, and Sean Combs would refer to her as CC. The prosecution said, what does CC stand for? She said Cassie Combs.
Her messages and emails got projected on a big screen for everyone to see, and Diddy's face straight up shocked. He looked like he had no clue. She still had those receipts. These were texts where he allegedly apologized for violent outbursts, where he supposedly threatened to crush her career if she spoke up. Messages that didn't just support her story, they went against everything his PR team had been spinning for years. But those messages, just the warm-up. As Cassie kept going, her testimony turned even darker. She started talking about physical assaults that allegedly happened throughout their relationship. The room froze total silence. She described being slammed against walls during heated arguments. Then came one of the most chilling parts. Cassie said he once pushed her down a flight of stairs at a rental spot in Miami. But the most disturbing, she testified that he allegedly choked her multiple times until she almost blacked out. She claimed he only stopped when her body went limp. You could feel the shift in the room.
Is the person who will likely be on the stand, according to attorneys, for 2, maybe 3 days. She's the one that was in a relationship with Sean Combs for over 10 years. So she's got a lot to say, and she's just getting started.
Just how important is Cassie's testimony to the prosecution?
I think it really connects the dots, Rachel. When you look at that initial indictment and what's being alleged, she really is the person that has probably the most information about this idea that the prosecution says, which is creating a criminal enterprise for Sean Combs' sexual desires. Something else that the jurors saw today that sort of connects it back to this alleged criminal enterprise are 7 photos of people that were very close to Sean Combs, one even his former chief of staff. And these were all people that Cassie Ventura was able to name and explain the functions in terms of what they did: security, driver, chief of staff, someone that handled financials. So it's showing that she knew some of these people, again, because she was with him, around him.
And just when it seemed like it couldn't get more intense, Cassie kept going. She testified that Diddy allegedly threw a champagne bottle at her head, missed by inches, and it shattered against the wall behind her. The room went still. This was the kind of twist that shook the entire foundation of the courtroom. Cassie testified that Diddy went into a full-blown rage, trashing the hotel room like something out of a movie. She said he smashed a lamp, flipped a table, and even punched a hole straight through the bathroom door. But the most chilling part, she claimed he kept her trapped in that room for over 48 hours, took her phone, and warned her not to even think about calling for help. When this part of the testimony wrapped, every single person In the courtroom turned to Diddy, his reaction in that moment it hit like a thunderclap. This could be the image that haunts his career forever. It was the moment nobody in that courtroom will ever forget. Diddy, the man who built an empire on staying cool, calm, and always in control, completely lost it right there in front of everyone. The polished image cracked, then shattered, revealing something raw and unrecognizable underneath. This is someone who spent decades mastering his public persona. The smooth-talking mogul who never folds no matter what. But as Cassie's testimony hit its hardest points, that mask he wore for years started slipping fast. Even veteran court reporters, people who've covered the biggest celebrity trials, said they'd never seen anything like it. Diddy changed right in front of them. He came in looking like a boss,
have
but by
empathy,
mid-testimony,
sympathy for her in
he
that
looked
way, but
cornered.
we don't really know. We know that they've been instructed to be fair and impartial. As to what type of witness she's coming off as, she's describing someone that she was, someone she said that was trying to figure out who she was at that time and who she was allowed to be. Now you're looking at somebody that's almost 40 years old, totally different person, but even in describing what was going on at her at that time, taking drugs, trying to please Sean Combs, she's really just sort of laying out the case for her not having a lot of control. So I think that's the takeaway. This is someone who is making it very clear that at that particular time in her life, she says she did not have any control really over what she wore, what she did, who she was having sex with. She's a different person now. But I think when she talks about those details and even reflecting on them for herself, as we saw today, she broke down on that.
For years, he allegedly controlled.
For years, he allegedly controlled every piece of Cassie's world, but now she was the one with the mic. And he couldn't mute her, he couldn't shut her down, couldn't call security, couldn't drop a press release to clean it up. All he could do was sit there and watch her speak her truth. Cassie told the court she had been saving proof for years, texts, emails, photos, all backed up and hidden in places Diddy couldn't reach, couldn't erase. And then came the moment that froze the whole room. Cassie revealed she had text messages from other celebrities, people who allegedly saw Diddy's behavior with their own eyes. The silence that followed heavy. No one expected that twist. These weren't just random folks from the industry, according to the court transcripts. These were Diddy's closest friends, business partners, ride or die associates, people who'd been deep in his inner circle for years. They were the ones who'd been at exclusive parties, backstage, at events, witnessing things the public never had a clue about. Then something wild happened in the gallery. One by one, members of Diddy's entourage, people who had rolled in with him that morning, sitting right behind him in a show of support, started quietly slipping out. No drama, no noise. Just silent exits, like they didn't want to be seen anymore. They couldn't sit through it, not after hearing what had just been laid out. By the end of this part of Cassie's testimony, Diddy was sitting there nearly alone, just him and his lawyers. The crew he showed up with gone. That powerful front he brought in the morning wiped out the man who walked into court like a music mogul, untouchable. Left that room looking crushed. Not even his top dollar security could shield him from what had just unfolded inside that courtroom. The empire Diddy spent decades building might be falling apart right in front of us. Cassie Ventura didn't just share her truth, she might have rewritten his entire legacy in one afternoon. The evidence, the messages, the photos, the testimony, it painted a picture you can't unsee. At this point, the real question isn't if Diddy can win the case, it's whether his reputation will ever bounce back after what the world just witnessed in that courtroom. Make sure to like, subscribe, share, and drop a comment below, and we'll see you on the next one.